And joining us now on our Newsmaker hotline is certainly a newsmaker here in the region. He's the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia and also running for governor. He's Ken Cuccinelli. Attorney General Cuccinelli, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good to be with you all. Good morning.
Good morning. And, I got to ask you about this story. Terry McAuliffe, your opponent there for the governor's seat in Virginia, he seems to have stepped in the pile of it here. He criticized you, his campaign criticized you, because you used the state's anti-sodomy laws to convict and attempt to punish this 47-year-old sexual predator. He was convicted on the state sodomy laws for having performing a sexual act with a minor, a 17-year-old woman, young girl, I should say. And the McAuliffe campaign criticized you for using this anti-sodomy law and tried to paint you as some kind of anti-gay bigot, when obviously this case has nothing to do with gay rights or gay anything. And now this whole story is turning back on Terry McAuliffe. Is it true, Attorney General Cuccinelli, that Terry McAuliffe has actually not said one way or the other how he would prosecute this case or how he would want the law?
Yeah, I mean, they're sticking with this. This is pretty incredible, or pretty revealing, however you'd like to see it. I mean, you have a 47-year-old man who propositioned a 17-year-old girl and was convicted of a felony for doing so, as well as a misdemeanor. The misdemeanor was contributing to the delinquency of a minor. This was the only felony charge available. So Commonwealth's attorney gets him prosecuted, convicted, and they appeal. That comes up to my office. We handle the appeal, win the appeal. This was a habeas corpus attack on the conviction, and they argued in a habeas corpus proceeding, not to be too technical for your listeners, but that the underlying statute was unconstitutional, and that the whole case ought to be thrown out. And a 2-to-1 panel of the Fourth Circuit did that, and that is procedurally completely wrong. It's constitutionally completely wrong. Our office was in agreement with the dissenting judge, who was an Obama appointee. This is not some, wild-eyed right-wing case.
Right.
This is us and an Obama appointee agreeing that this 47-year-old man should be conviced of a felony under this statute.
But you understand what the problem
McAuliffe is sticking with the notion. They are so desperate, and you all pay closer attention to this than most people. You're going to see this for the next 7 months. They're so desperate to turn anything they can figure out into a social issue, all while saying, this is all Cuccinelli wants to talk about, is that they walked right into this. This is foolish, and they're so committed to it that they still won't say that they would actually try to appeal to maintain the conviction of the 47-year-old.
The problem here, Mr. Attorney General, is that it took you 4 minutes to describe your position and the background on it, and all they have to do is say, Ken Cuccinelli doesn't like gay people.
Okay, Brian, let me try it in 10 seconds.
All right.
We convicted a 47-year-old of propositioning a 17-year-old, and Terry McAuliffe thinks that's a bad idea.
There you go.
Now, thank you very much. That's what I was going for. Hey, listen, though, when I look at the race between you and Terry McAuliffe, it's a statistical dead heat according to the polls that are out there, and you're going to have to do pretty well in Northern Virginia to prevail in this upcoming race. How do you do that?
Well, one, of course, I grew up here. I still live up here, and I have pretty deep roots. And as much as we think of Northern Virginia as transient, it isn't really so much transient as it is that this is where people move. We keep adding more people. And so there's a lot of people here who I've known my whole life and who know about my community contributions, whether it's fighting sexual assault, working for the homeless, working to help the mentally ill and their families, working for veterans. All of that's before running for office. So there's an awful lot of time serving Virginia that isn't in public office that I have, and that's a big difference in this race. I also have the 10-plus years of state government experience. I know how Virginia works. My opponent doesn't. Virginia Pilot ran front-page article highlighting the fact that in an interview he couldn't answer some pretty basic questions about Virginia government. So, if you don't know whether you want to protect children, if you don't know how Virginia government works, you've left me some openings.
Yeah.
And experience matters. It counts. We all are worried about insiders, but the Washington Post calls him a Virginia outsider and a Washington insider.
Yep.
So if you're a Democrat and that's what the Washington Post says about you, you've got some trouble. And by the way, if I could go back to the earlier subject, we have a spectacular record in the AG's office of fighting sexual predators, of fighting human trafficking, of protecting children. Literally more convictions than any 2-year period in the history of the AG's office, just looking back 2 years. We started a human trafficking effort from scratch. It didn't exist in the AG's office before I got here, and that is largely about protecting children. That's a lot of the convictions you've seen in Northern Virginia have been about moving girls, not young women, around and selling them for prostitution, and that is an effort we began. So we have a great contrast in our office. It's interesting. They're not attacking us by and large on the record of my time in the Attorney General's office, because it's a good record. It's a record of protecting children, protecting the elderly in areas like this, even when we get into what might be some legally or procedurally tough situations. We're fighting for children, and their attack was, well, here's Cuccinelli taking his eye off the ball of the economy. And I will tell you this, the economy is going to be number one with me in this campaign. It's going to be number one with me as governor. But when there are times when I need to, quote, take my eye off that ball, as they say it, to protect children, I'm going to do it. And if people have a problem with that, there's a candidate for them in this race, and it isn't me.
All right, Ken Cuccinelli,
wow.
Attorney General, the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Bringing it this morning, isn't it?
You know what? The race is on. And really quickly, Ken Cuccinelli, Politico says that the McAuliffe campaign is really just a proxy for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Do you have a reaction to that?
Yeah, when I look at what they're talking about in terms of fundraising and sort of the Bill Clinton roadshow, I see where that's coming from. I imagine Hillary Clinton would want us to appeal this case. It's amazing Terry McAuliffe doesn't want us to do that.
Good point. I can't wait for the McAuliffe campaign to respond. We'll have this audio out there, and hopefully they'll finally respond and say whether they would actually like to convict a 47-year-old man for the acts that you
we're in day 3 where they have refused to say that I should have appealed, that they would appeal if he was in my position. I mean, he's a lawyer. He went to law school. He can answer this question.
All right, Ken Cuccinelli, thanks so much for joining us. Don't be a stranger.